like to call to order the regular meeting of the Naperville Park District Board of Commissioners. Everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bridget, please take the roll.
President Todd?
Here.
Vice President Gibson?
Here.
Commissioner Ansier? Commissioner Janner?
Here.
Commissioner McBroom?
Here.
Commissioner Ruffing?
Here.
Commissioner Thompson?
Here.
Okay, are there any matters from the public?
We do. Mr. Grant Worley?
Good evening, Madam President, Commissioners, wonderful Park District staff. Ray? My name is Grant Worley. I am here this evening to advocate on behalf of open and unfettered access to the DuPage River. Recently, it has been brought to many people's attention through the media that a small group, predominantly in Plainfield, has decided to seek closing down the DuPage River, deeming it private through the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, which on its merits should fail. Brief history of the DuPage River from the Native American settlement. It is what now is known as Knock Knolls Park, between the confluences there, upstream to Pioneer Park, where Hobson had his mill, to just north of the administration building. Captain Joseph Napier settled there, directly north of the admin building, all centered around the river, and then of course Naperville's famed Riverwalk. It is truly the heartbeat of what makes Naperville, Naperville. Those that want to close the DuPage River have taken it up with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. It would be unprecedented in the state of Illinois to deem a river as private. The DNR itself has provided funding to the counties and to the city through many park districts for waters, not just the DuPage River, but to promote access. The park district, I believe, does oversee some canoe launches. The county oversees some canoe launches that have been funded through the Department of Natural Resources. The Department of Natural Resources have stocked fish in the DuPage River for public enjoyment. Throughout Naperville's history, people of all ages have enjoyed it. I grew up mucking in the river. I canoe it frequently now, as many do. And in light of COVID, more and more people have realized the benefits of being outside. The Park District is also in a unique position, along with the city of Naperville, due to legal precedent. Many of you may recall the Sportsman's Club operating under a National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit, NPDES. Through that litigation, it was deemed that the DuPage River is indeed a federal navigable waterway, and through waters of the state, the waters from Sportsman's Club did flow into the DuPage River. So I'm here this evening to ask this board to pass a resolution in support of unfettered public access. I do know that Representative Mark Batnick of Plainfield has drafted a letter that has been signed by members from both parties in both chambers advocating that this river and all rivers in DuPage or in Illinois remain public. This is not a partisan issue. This is bipartisan in support. It is something that is good for the health of our community. I am more than happy to answer any questions, and I look forward to hopefully reading about your resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. Anyone else, Bridget?
Mr. Jordan Benson?
Just make sure you hit the button. There you go. Yep, perfect.
Evening, everybody. This is not nearly as organized as the previous presentation, but so my wife Elaine and I are new residents to Naperville, and we're at Brook Crossings, right where the pond dredging. Sorry, I'm figuring out microphones. My name is Jordan Benson. I live at 2740 Rolling Meadows Drive, near Naperville Plainfield Road, in 95th. My wife Elaine and I moved here about almost a year ago, and our property abuts against the pond dredging project, And since we're new residents, we weren't around when the plans were formulated, and we like the idea, like where everything's going when the phases are done. We think it's a great idea. Like the pond does need to be dredged and restored. Our only issue is that we don't have a lot of information. I sent an email to Peggy earlier today, and she responded back with, and she did respond back, but it's not really, what's the word? It's not that clear. It's not that clear to us, people who don't work in parks, who in park district, what exactly we should be taking away from that. It's not like necessarily in plain English. That's really all. So this is really more of a request for additional information in plain English, maybe with a map of like where things are going to go. This is also kind of the product of me speaking with a bunch of my neighbors, and everyone kind of has the same questions, like what trees are going to be replaced, where are they going to be replaced. And that's kind of really it. It's like I said, this isn't that organized. It's just, hey, what's going on? Can you give us as much detail as you have? Because as far as I can tell, there hasn't been a whole lot communicated to the residents along that street. Not many people know what's going on. So that's really just kind of where this is coming from. That's basically it.
Eric, you want to?
So my name is Eric Schutz. I serve as the Director of Planning. I work directly with Peggy Bada, responding to your email earlier today. And yes, I can give you a little bit of background about the public outreach and communication.
Okay.
It actually started back in 2018, 2019. The residents of your community actually requested the project. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah. Is it on? Is there power on it?
No, it's completely dead.
Okay.
Can I just speak here, or do I need to speak in the microphone? Okay. You want this one?
Test.
Karaoke night.
So, yes, to answer your question, there was extensive community outreach. Residents of your community requested the project. This is directly related to natural resource management. It's the removal of the alders, which are invasive. They're actually causing the issue of the settlement going into the pond. We worked with the residents at a community open house event at the Naperville Municipal Center in August of 2019, as well as online outreach in 2020. There's information on the website, as well as I know Ms. Mana provided numerous emails to residents about updates on projects. I have copies of those, as well as responded to your email this evening. Just to be absolutely clear, this is a project we work very closely with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They drive a lot of this. They approve the permit for all 5 phases. Also, it's the Will South Cook Soil Conservation District. They're also part of the review and approval of this project, as well as the city of Naperville. So, and based on input from residents, we identified the need to dredge this pond. It is extremely unhealthy for the environment. And with removal, starting with removal of the European alders, and then next is the dredging. So we started with the first 2 parts of the phase 1 this year, which was the removal of the alders on the east side of the pond, which you just recently noticed. That's been done already. Next will be the dredging, and then the establishment of shoreline. There's future phases in future years for the removals of the alders on the west side, but this is the first step, and it's really coming from a perspective of cash flow. But to be absolutely clear, all 5 phases have been permitted and approved from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Okay, and we're not taking any issue with any of that. Like, cool. Like, we actually like where the end product is going.
Great.
So,
So you mentioned a concern about just the information being responded back to you. What are you looking for as information back?
yeah, doing help. Thank you.
The wife. Hi, I'm Yelena Cheskidova, same residence. One of the things that kind of threw everybody for the loop is that we didn't know when this project was going to start. So one morning, everybody just showed up with the equipment and started dredging. And residents were like, oh, is this happening? Finally. So one of the questions for future years is that, are we going to have a heads up of, these are the dates when we're going to start? It doesn't have to be a huge, heads up, just we're starting work on during this week or during this month. And it's going to go, because we understand that it is a multi-year project. So it is going to stop this year. Whether or not it's going to start up next year or the year after, we're going to forget again that this is coming. And then it's going to be, again, a big surprise. And as it moves down the shore, it's new resident or like the next set of residents where it's like, oh, now it's in our backyard. And they're going to come up and it's the same topic of conversation of these guys are in our backyard. So that's one of the things that kind of brought this all on, is that just the unexpected nature of it.
I can actually respond to that, and I think we'll put you at ease. So this first phase of work actually is covered for this year in 21 and 22. So the next wave of work is planned for 23 and then 24 and 25. So before we start the next phases, we'll have a community open house. Like for instance, for our 2022 projects, we're showcasing and reaching out to residents, having conversation around them now. But there's nothing further planned for Brooks Crossing in 2022. We were able to get a lot of the work done this year.
Okay.
So you're good to go now. And then looking ahead at 2023 next year around this time, we'll reach out to all the residents in your neighborhood, inform them via website updates, even letters informing you of the project, all the residents who live in the area, to provide input on those next phases of work. So you'll be properly informed. I think the point you're getting at is right before the work started.
Yes.
We start well in advance as far as communications, a notice, and that's something we can, work on in the future as far as notifying folks. Next week, there's going to be folks showing up to do these phases of work that we talked about over a year ago.
Yeah, because I think it's that year mark, because especially on our street,
There's been a lot of turnover.
yeah, half of the residents that you had those conversations with a year ago aren't there. So as we have literally people unpacking, all of a sudden they're like, well, we bought this house yesterday and there's construction in the back. And there's literally 2 families unpacking their boxes right now. So they closed before they saw any of this. And so it's a little bit of that, of as it's coming up. And then I think the other thing, which Peggy sent us, which is somewhat useful, but a little bit hard to read, is just the questions about where the trees are going to be put up, because this is our sound barrier in a lot of ways. So it's going to be, when it comes, as we start to take the trees down, when are new trees coming up? If that's, in 5 years that we get new trees, that means that there's no sound barrier between our houses and the main street for 5 years. And those trees are then going to take, 10 years to grow up to be big enough to be a sound barrier, which means that now we're looking at 15 years down the road that there's a meaningful sound barrier between our house and a pretty big road. So that's the other question, is timing of when are trees being planted. I know that the dredging is great and all of that is great. I think it's some of that replacement, which is set up for last phases or later phases, that it's a little unclear for us today of how is this going to, how are the next 5 years going to look for us?
Yeah, so in on the website, and the plan that's on the website identifies which phase and which year improvement. I know Peggy responded that today, but I think your interest is more what the planting of new trees is going to look like. And we can definitely, work on that and get something out to, post it on our website so you're aware. To be absolutely clear though, those invasive alders that are there, I know they serve as a sound barrier. They were never planted.
No, we know that, and we understand that they have to go.
And we recommend the residents, for your home, and you look out, and this is a long distance, from your home, there's the pond and the rest of the park property, and then you see Plainfield Naperville Road, and when you look way out there, as residents, you can plant, and I do the same thing at home. I can plant trees, and I can do barriers, and I can do fencing, knowing that the invasive material was never planted. It was never to serve as a sound barrier. It just grew up there. And we can plant additional trees, but we're not looking to plant the quantity of trees to kind of recreate what is there for an invasive material. Would be tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of, all the trees that make that barrier. We never planted that was invasive material. So we're going to add new trees, but you're not going to get that full, complete look because they never should have been there in the first place.
Okay, that's all.
All right, that is helpful because I think that's.
Yeah, and I think that helps expectations. And that's why it's great that you came here tonight, or you can always reach out to me or Peggy, just so when residents talk that we can inform them of the facts. This way, when you look forward in the future, you know what's going to happen in your area.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I was like, one of our other neighbors is Dave. In like when you talk to other people in the neighborhood, that sound barrier issue, you're going to find a lot of people coming back to it. And so the explanation you just gave was very helpful.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
President Todd, before we get off the public comment, what would you consider the appropriate time to address the issue that was raised? And I know at least there's one other commissioner that brought up prior to the meeting, maybe adding this to new business or having some discussion on this. What would you think would be appropriate time to add it into new business or just let it lie? Or what are your thoughts on that? The item that Grant Worley brought forward with regard to the DuPage River. Talk about it under new business?
We can talk about it under new business.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's move on to the consent agenda. Bridget, would you read the items?
Item 3.1, approve June 2021 disbursements made through the Bank of America Purchasing Card Program in the amount of $295,632.53. 3.2, approve June 2021 FinTech disbursements in the amount of $6,832.65. 3.3, approve June 24, 2021 executive session closed meeting minutes. 3.4, approve July 8, 2021 regular meeting minutes. 3.5, award the contract for the 2021 Walnut Ridge Park basketball court renovation project to Evans & Son Blacktop Inc. in the amount of $57,302. And 3.6, approve ordinance 1004 declaring necessity of use and authorizing the transfer of property for the benefit of the Naperville Park District.
Yeah, are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda? Okay, let's accept it.
Move to accept consent agenda items 3.1 through 3.7. Oh, yep, 3.6. 3.6. Second.
Okay. Roll call.
Vice President Gibson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ansier, Commissioner Janner,
Yes.
Commissioner McBroom,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruffing,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
President Todd.
Yes. All right, move to approve.
Move to approve consent agenda items 3.1 through 3.6.
Second. And this is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. No unfinished business. New business. Okay. Start out with the National Fitness Campaign, Fitness Court Grant Program.
Yes, so the National Fitness Campaign Fitness Court Program was discussed briefly with the Parks and Recreation Committee last Friday. Originally, this project was brought to the Park District by actually City of Naperville staff who had been contacted by the National Fitness Campaign with an interest in bringing a fitness court to Naperville, and that was late in 2020. We had some conversation at that time with the Parks and Recreation Committee and then also with the full board at the January meeting regarding the project and discussed potential sites, funding, and whether or not there was an interest in pursuing the project, which there was at the time. And so we entered a non-binding application to be considered as one of the communities for fitness court. We were awarded as a site and actually awarded a $25,000 grant from the Illinois Park and Recreation Association, the Illinois Park and Recreation Foundation, as well as the National Fitness Campaign to actually be used towards the development of a fitness court here in Naperville. And the site that we selected and National Fitness Campaign has also agreed that it's a good location is at Frontier Sports Complex near the 95th Street Community Plaza. It would actually be located next to the parking lot that was just developed, close to where the trail is that leads south into Frontier Sports Complex. And so the next step for the Park District really is the adoption of a resolution or a resolution of adoption, identifying the acceptance of the grant from the program and the district's commitment towards developing that fitness court in 2022. And so the intent is to bring that resolution to the board at the August 12th meeting, along with an associated timeline for completing the project and to receive the board's approval to be able to take those next steps.
Fred?
Any questions?
Yeah, I assume $25,000 wouldn't cover the cost of the, do we have any idea what the total cost would be?
No, I believe the overall total cost is anticipated right around $160,000. Now, what National Fitness Campaign does is they work with communities and a number of state agencies, universities, to assist with identifying potential partners within the community that can help to raise funds to be able to cover a portion or all the costs associated with it. It's something that, in working with Samira and as well as Stacy Fonteccia, we're already looking to identify some partners that we want to engage and see if they want to become part of this project.
So is this something we vote on in the next meeting, or?
So what would be
accept the
voted?
grant?
Yeah, what would be voted on at the next meeting would be the resolution of adoption, which is essentially accepting the grant and committing to funding the project in 2022.
Any other comments?
Yeah, so I was at the meeting, and when you went over in detail the plan, and I thought more about it. I really love the concept of having this open public space for use, but then also being able to host classes where we can financially recoup some of the costs. So it's a great equalizer for people who might not be able to afford a fitness center. They can go to this and do it on their own, but then we can also hold classes for people who might be more motivated by an instructor. So I think it is a great opportunity to be an equalizer for a lot of people, and then also bring some revenue in for the Park District as well.
Any other comments? Okay. Thanks, Brent. We'll move on to the next one, the Premier Soccer Training Independent Contractor Agreement.
Yes, I have this one as well. The Premier Soccer Program is our more competitive program that we offer each fall and spring within the soccer program. And we utilize, some of the teams choose to utilize trainers, professional trainers, to provide the coaching for the teams that are in those programs. This past spring, we actually sent out a request for proposals to various coaching companies for trainer services for soccer. We were looking to see just overall if what the different companies were that were out there and the types of philosophies and what they can bring to our program, as well as working to address some challenges that we've seen with our current provider that we want to make a change with. We did receive 2 proposals back, one from Challenger Sports and another from Soccer Success, Inc., which actually operates the Cover coaching program here in Illinois. They're licensed here in Illinois to provide that program. And a team of staff reviewed the proposals, and we intend to recommend a contract at the August 12th board meeting for trainer services to Cover or Soccer Success, Inc., to move forward with the Premier program. That would be a change. They utilize a number of local coaches for their program. We liked their overall approach to the curriculum and really individualized growth of the players. And certainly this is something that teams have a choice as to whether or not they want to use a trainer. They can also hire an outside trainer to work with their team as well. And all of the costs associated with these trainers then are covered by the teams that choose to register for a trainer.
This was also talked about at the Parks and Rec meeting. Any comments, additional comments or questions? Okay, we shall continue to move on. The Labor Day Parade.
I just want to gauge interest in participating in this parade. It's for those of you who haven't marched with us before. It's one of the four that we generally attend. We do the Little Friends, that's a Parade of Lights, Memorial Day, and St. Patrick's Day. I have put in an entry for us, just assuming we'd have some interest. We generally march with a program or two. It will be our dance academy and also a flags program. And also we do have a park police entry. They have a whole contingent with some APVs and one of their squads. It steps off from Naperville North at 10 o'clock in the morning on the 6th, and it ends up in Central at Naperville Central. It's family friendly. We bring strollers, wagons, dogs on a leash. It's pretty festive. And what else can I say about it? Oh, transportation we'll discuss. Generally, we've been able to shuttle people back from, we'll meet, say, at Edmond, or that's kind of a we'll probably meet around admin, or we'll get, if we could get everyone parked, and then we'll take one of our vans and drop off. So I'll send out a calendar invite probably tomorrow. Let me know. But do you think a couple people that would be interested? Oh, yay. Perfect.
Are we required to dance?
Yes. Sorry.
Good. No, I'm volunteering. I just wanted to make sure.
No, there will be music. You can get into it.
All right, now our regular board meeting scheduled for September 23rd.
So we have 5 commissioners attending in our PA. We have several staff attending as well, along with Dirk, who'll be presenting. In the past, we have either shifted this meeting, if it's feasible, to the next week, or if we don't have a lot of business to conduct, we will cancel it altogether. Kind of depends on what we might have. I know. You're the culprit. So if we want, just bringing it up so that we can discuss, I don't need an answer right now.
Okay.
So everyone's aware that it will be a conflict. And we've
Okay.
done, it comes up every year, so we handle it differently every time.
Yeah, in the past, it's been how much work do we really have to do at that particular meeting? Can it be easily moved to the next meeting, the first meeting in September? Or, October, or, should we just move it to the next week? So I think that's a lot of what it comes down to. No. We
But I
always
do
keep
need
the
to
second and
know.
fourth, but that one particular meeting can move from the 23rd to the 30th of
We
September.
can do that. I just need to provide public notice.
Yeah,
That was going to be my question. When do we need to make that decision by?
10 days in advance, at least. I mean,
Okay, so maybe save the date of the 30th just in case.
okay.
okay, you good with that? All right, now we'll talk about the DuPage River. Do you have some comments?
I would support the resolution. I can't remember exactly the language, but I'm in full support of if there's anything the park district can do to help keep those waterways free to the public. If any other commissioner would support Dirk putting together a resolution to vote on in the next meeting,
Yeah, I definitely would, and I want to thank Vice President Gibson for first bringing this to our attention, and the legislative committee as well. I'd like to hear from Dirk on this a little bit, but it appears to me that simply writing a letter to our legislators or lobbying our legislators, so to speak, is probably the preferred course of action. Trying to start a war with a government agency is probably, we've learned that it's probably not going to get us very far. Dirk, do you have an opinion on the best way to proceed here?
Yeah, so I think a resolution joining in the sort of the statement made by the representative that the other state reps have signed on to is the best way to go. First of all, constitutionally, as we learned in the dispute over the park code versus emergency powers handed to the governor, and Judge Wheaton told us that the park code is always subservient. The IDNR is an executive agency and constitutionally is in a superior position to the park district. So they're a regulator of us And so us telling them what to do isn't going to get very far. Joining with state representatives in making a case to the governor, whose agency it is, that's the most effective way to go. The issue here is there is a statute on the books that says IDNR cannot prohibit these uses on a public body of water. Notably, they omit from their list of public bodies of water the DuPage River, even though, as Grant pointed out to us, there are case law and decisions even by them and IEPA, their sister agency, telling us that it's a navigable body of water, therefore it must be considered a public body of water under the statutory definition. So IDNR is playing a game here, and it's not appropriate. And the only person who can make them straighten up and fly right is the governor. And until the governor's attention is brought to this, we're all sort of floundering. And so joining in a petition that joins with these representatives, but also then goes to the governor would be my, not that he's a fan of ours, but that would be what I would recommend doing, because it's absurd. The federal government, they've mandated us back in the day when we were sampling the lead before we were mediated sportsmen, for them all, the state of Illinois and the U.S. government, to come down on the Naperville Park District, tell us that's a navigable waterway that you need to protect. We spent $3 million to protect, and then to say, no, it's not a public waterway. You can't recreate on it, is a game that would be worthy of any news channel covering it. But before we do that, I think we give people the opportunity to fix the game they're playing. And this got started because people in Plainfield petitioned their representatives to put some pressure on IDNR to stop these folks who were getting out of the river and walking in their backyards. I can understand why people would be upset that people who have had too much to drink are getting out of the river and walking across their backyards and urinating in their bushes. But this is shooting a fly with a cannon that IDNR has proposed, and it needs to stop.
So the resolution is the appropriate.
Right, so I'll draft one that joins with the one that's out there that Commissioner Gibson circulated, and then also, reminds the governor that you've already, as a matter of precedent and a matter of law, dictated to the Naperville Park District that it's a navigable waterway, qualifying therefore as a public body of water, and by statute, you're prohibited from restricting this.
Okay.
I want to remind everybody of that.
All right.
It seems like time is of the essence here. What is the timing on this? I mean, you'll draft it and then the board would approve it at the next meetings that we're talking about?
Yeah, so what I would do is use the magic wand here. I'll circulate it to each of you. Each of you can respond to me with any of your, individually, I'll be using the blind carbon so I don't create a meeting. Each of you can get back to me with your comments. There'll probably be a second draft then that goes out. Once I have a majority of you signing off individually, we'll send it out and then we'll ratify it at the next meeting.
Okay.
I just have a question, I guess,
Go
with
ahead.
the, is it that are looking to privatize this specific area because they don't want people, like you said, leaving the river if they're floating on it and going into their yards? Like, I guess I didn't really understand what the issue was.
They're not privatizing the river, but the statute that prohibits IDNR from preventing these kind of ordinary activities applies to public bodies of water. And then IDNR publishes administratively a list of public bodies of water, so defined. They don't include the DuPage River on public bodies of water. The definition of a public body of water includes navigable waterways as defined. Well, IEPA and the United States government have both told the Naperville Park District that the DuPage River is a navigable waterway. So there's no excuse for IDNR to not include it on the public bodies of water. But because it's not there, IDNR is saying the statutory prohibition doesn't apply, and we can therefore restrict activities on this private body of water in the name of environmental health. And so that's the canard, frankly, that's going on. IDNR is going to say it's unhealthy for people to be using the DuPage River this way, and it's a private body of water. We can regulate the environment. And so that's what we're seeking to end, is to say, no, IDNR, you need to recognize this as a public body of water. You don't have the authority to restrict canoes and kayaks and tubes and anything else. Those are ordinary recreational activities, and recognize your limited powers. So.
Any other comments or questions? So I assume there's support? Yeah, okay.
All right, I'll get it
Thank
done.
you. All right, on to the department updates, administration.
Just a couple items. I am in the middle, almost done, of just looking through the board policies. It's time to review them. I'll submit them for legal counsel's review, and Marie, I'll give you I have a paper copy for you to just look through. I flagged a couple of things for your attention. I'd like to try to get it approved or for review in September, just to keep moving along. We're kind of behind on it. Also, just FYI, since a lot of you will be at conference, I did get an email from Aileen regarding the Best of the Best presentation at NRPA, and they're doing a virtual presentation that will include the reaccredited and newly accredited agencies at 7:30 p.m. on the 23rd, which is the last night of conference, and I think everyone will be on their way home by then. So I will send you the invitation virtual link if you're interested. We don't have any idea how, is it just a listing? I don't know, or if they're going to go into any detail. I will make sure that it's recorded in some way for posterity. So that's all.
Before we leave that topic, though, fresh eyes are always helpful. So with the new commissioners, if you've looked at the board policies and there's something that's confusing or ambiguous, we'd be grateful for that feedback, and we can try and clean up the language to, make it work and useful for everybody. So new eyes are usually helpful, and so to the extent, don't be bashful. Let us know if you saw something.
This group is not bashful.
And I have reformatted it just so that it's more consistent with some of our other policy manuals, our administrative policy.
Oh, great.
So it's a little cleaner.
Okay, looking forward to that. All right, 6.2, finance.
Okay, light is on. So other than budget, which you're going to hear now until October, I think I mentioned a couple meetings ago that we've been watching the bond market, the municipal bond market, pretty closely. It's been a little volatile, but rates have continued to decline. So Eric and I have been in conversations, and we'll be looking forward to bringing a refunding opportunity again for 2 of our outstanding bond issues. So where we go from here is at the next Finance Committee meeting. Eric will be there, and he will provide some options of what our savings could be and how we could structure the new bonds. So it's just like refinancing a mortgage. And how we do that depends on, look out to the future of what it means for our ability to borrow the next 5 to 10, 20 years, how we structure this. In August, the week of the 23rd, Moody's will be out again for another rating review. It seems like we just went through this. But we have to do that to sell them on the public market, which is where we will gain the most savings. So it's significant. Right now we're looking, I hate to throw out numbers because things can change, but we wouldn't be doing this if the savings wasn't over 500,000. So it will be that or upwards, unless something dramatically changes. And if it does, then we would pull the refinance and just wait for another opportunity.
We'll wait for finance to look at that. Golf, Kevin.
Gotta hold it down to make sure it's powered on.
How's that?
There we go.
All right, a couple quick updates from golf. First off, our Naperville Men's Amateur Tournament is set for this weekend, which was unfortunately canceled last year. So this is the first time we've had this in a couple of years. We have about 128 golfers registered for the 2-day tournament, which is a full field for us. Saturday's 18 holes will be hosted by Naperbrook, and then that's followed up by the final round Sunday at Springbrook. All the participants will also enjoy a great lunch both days, provided by our sponsors, McAllister's and Texas Roadhouse. This past week, Springbrook Golf Course hosted an Illinois Special Olympics Golf Skills Challenge. We had over 100 athletes competing in several different golf skills, including putting, chipping, bunker shots, full swing, with the winners from this event advancing on to the state tournament. Competition was a great success. The athletes really enjoyed their day's events, and staff provided help to make sure everything ran smoothly. We got a lot of good feedback from the organizers about the course, and they're already inquiring about possible dates for next year. Construction is set to begin in August on the renovations of the driving range and the practice greens at Naperbrook. This is all part of our Golf Master Construction Plan, and Naperbrook will have the driving range tee and practice greens completely rebuilt, enlarging both to provide more area for our public to practice and for our golf programs at Naperbrook. Turf areas will be reseeded with new varieties of grass, which will provide better wear tolerance and improve playing surfaces for the golfers. This construction is expected to take about 6 weeks, depending on the weather, and the range will reopen in mid-September with a new tee and green ready for use in May of 2022. A couple updates on rounds revenues. They continue to be well ahead of expectations, despite our weather not cooperating as fully here in July as earlier this season. Year-to-date numbers for June, our rounds are just over 36,000, which is a 30% increase over our 5-year average. Our revenues across the board continue to be positive. Overall revenue through June is 40% ahead of budget. Looking at our July revenues, year-to-date, we've already exceeded our 2021 year-end budget for our programming. Our memberships, both our full-year Brooks Links memberships and our Brooks Advantage card numbers are already above year-end budget. And our driving range revenues, combined revenues for our driving range. In fact, our current combined year-to-date revenues for our driving range exceeds any pre-pandemic year-end total revenue. So we're basically doing in 6.5 months what we normally do in about a year. So we're really looking forward to having the construction and the renovations completed at Naperbrook and kind of adding some new space there for all our use for practice and programming. That's it for golf.
That's great. Katie, Human Resources.
Okay, I'm good. All right, good evening. At the August 12th meeting, one new personnel policy and a couple updated personnel policies are going to come before you for approval. The updated policies will address matters that are performance and safety concerns, including excessive and disruptive use of a personal cellular device. We've been addressing these issues using other personnel policies when they do arise, but this update will specifically call this out within our disciplinary process policy. The other issue we're going to be addressing is drinking non-alcoholic beer at work, because we had to address that issue previously, and now we're going to have a specific policy about it. The new policy is a direct result of Public Act 101-652.
It's always something.
What's that? I'm sorry. It wasn't. I don't understand the point of it, to be honest. Well, it was Heineken. I wouldn't, okay, sorry. Or let's get to the other policy. Yeah, so this act requires a whistleblower reporting and anti-retaliation policy. Our current policies cover potential wrongdoing of certain types, but the act applies generally to potentially all types of improper governmental actions. Therefore, working with Dirk's team, they recommend a new policy and procedure that's standalone from our existing policies. If you have questions following a review of the edits and the new policy when you get them in your board packet, would you let me know? I'm not going to be at the August 12th meeting. I need to get my kids back to school. So I'd like to address those if I could ahead of time. And then, as you know, I've mentioned the challenges the district has encountered hiring staff during previous departmental updates, like everyone. The district's biggest challenge is hiring part-time and part-time 30+ staff in our maintenance areas, so in parks, in golf maintenance, trades, and custodial. This part-time 30+ classification was created in response to the Affordable Care Act. Part-time 30+ staff are eligible for health insurance, but that's basically the only benefits they're eligible for, which is different and much less than obviously our full-time staff receive. When we developed this type of employee classification, we needed a process in place to control health insurance costs and then predict our anticipated health insurance costs as we budgeted. At that time, the district also created 6-month positions, which were seasonal nature and thereby not eligible for the health insurance.
So after 10 years of working within this structure, it's impeding our recruiting and retention efforts in these maintenance areas. And then couple that with the rapidly escalating minimum wage increases that are going to continue through 2025, resulting in compression issues, and then just the sheer competition to get people to apply. It's becoming more and more difficult to attract applicants and quality applicants at that. So over the last several weeks, let's talk about budget. And we've had discussions with the impacted directors. And together we're evaluating our ability to reallocate part-time wage budgets and develop new departmental structures with more full-time staff so we can get these qualified individuals in and provide the amenities that the public deserves. So earlier today, I came across an org chart from March of 2001. At that point in time, we had 103 full-time and full-time equivalent employees. And then I pulled our May 2021 org chart, so 20-year difference. And we have 113 full-time and full-time equivalent employees. So that's 20 years and only 10 new belly buttons. And when I start looking at positions that we didn't have, that number 10 starts to really dwindle. We didn't have a fitness manager. We didn't have a nature center manager. So the growth has been exponential where our staffing at a full-time capacity hasn't been. So during the upcoming mid-year budget review and our 2022 budget presentation, please expect to see changes to the district's org chart and our full-time head count as we move forward. More to come on that, but wanted to give you a heads up. Over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it's IT time.
Yeah, my notes are over here.
Notes?
So, yeah, so we continue to support all of our summer operations, which are in full swing, as you know. An example of this is tomorrow is our first Movies in Your Park since 2019. One of us is typically there on site to help set up for the movie. We're also currently staging projects to make some large service provider changes as well as some infrastructure expansions and upgrades at our data center at the administration building, as well as some other branch sites. While our daily workload comes from operations, we continue to focus project efforts in system redundancies, disaster recovery, and cybersecurity. An example of those redundancies includes the current need for a redundant cooling system for our data center. At our administration building, we have a large cooling unit whose purpose is keeping our data center at a cool 65 degrees. And that houses the large majority of the technology that's throughout the district. The current system experienced a physical, like something actually went wrong with the cooling unit earlier this year. Actually, it was in between January and February-ish when we really had the issues. And that caused us some downtime and system outages. While we were able to get the systems back up with temporary cooling units and working with our trades departments, in short, what happened is that it stopped cooling and the temperature in that room spiked up to 110 degrees within 10 to 15 minutes. I don't know if you guys may or may not know, but the two biggest things that kill electronics are extreme heat and extreme coldness, which is one of the reasons why you're not supposed to leave your laptop in the car, but we all do. But that's one of the biggest things that'll kill electronics very quickly. So what happened during that time and when it hit to 110 degrees, our systems started to shut themselves down because they were overheating. The Planning and Development Department, aka Eric, will be bringing to the board additional details at the appropriate time about this need. So, any questions? Okay.
Okay, on to marketing and communications.
All right, thank you. So the summer keeps rolling on and our marketing keeps rolling on as well. As Omar mentioned, we've got Night at the Movies coming up. That whole series is getting started here. So things continue to move forward and we continue to promote. Last Friday, we launched the Super Summer Sale at Centennial Beach with 50% off 2021 memberships, and that's valid through the end of the season. And I'm not going to preempt Brad because I'm thinking he might have an update on that, but we're seeing some really good numbers so far from that sale, which is very positive. We're also currently working on our summer 2021 zero enrollment campaign for Fort Hill Fitness, which will kick off August 1st and run for the entire month of August. The theme is Find Your Fit at Fort Hill.
And we're going to, once again, have our billboard on Ogden Avenue near Quincy, which is kind of exciting. That was a new thing that we did earlier this year. So we're happy to bring that back again because we got a lot of great comments on it. Hopefully we'll get a lot of great registrations or memberships from that. Additionally, with Fort Hill, August also marks 5 years for the Fort Hill Activity Center as a facility. And we're currently working with staff to create an anniversary event for Saturday, August 21st. And that's going to be from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. There's going to be some drawings, some demo classes, a lot of fun things. We've got going to be giving away some t-shirts and doing something fun with that. And that's all I'll put out there for right now. But hopefully we'll get a lot of people through the building that day, getting excited about kind of what's to come for Fort Hill in the future. Been working very closely with Eric and the planning department on launching the communications for the 2022 Virtual Capital Projects Open House, which kicks off next week. So you're going to see starting early next week, a lot of communications on that to really push forward that initiative so we get a lot of feedback, as much feedback as possible from our residents about those projects. Currently working on the production for the Autumn 2021 program guide. It will be available online beginning August 4th. Registration begins August 9th. And then Naperville Youth Basketball registration begins September 14th. So a lot of dates out there, but are ramping up for the next season already. And then finally, I wanted to provide just some highlights from the sponsorship Q2 update per the memo that was in the July 16th packet. We have for Q2, $61,128 in sponsorship revenue across 45 partners. That's a 536.82% increase, which sounds crazy, but that's comparing Q2 of this year to Q2 last year when we had revenue of about $9,600. So a huge sea change. Obviously, we know with COVID last year, we're obviously back on track and rolling along with that. So from 2020 to 2021, we're currently up 14.13% year over year. And we're less than $13,000 away from our 2021 goal of $250,000. So the closer we get to that number, the more excited that we're getting because that's a big goal for us. So continue to work towards that. Thank you.
That's great. Park Police.
Yeah, so I'm back in charge as the chief of police. And last time I was in charge of the Park District Police was last June when we had riots in downtown Naperville. So basically what can go wrong at this point? Nothing really to report. I mean, it's the normal nonsense that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, but all is good.
As we hit midsummer, our sports field programming support and tournament season finally began to slow down. Over the 4th of July weekend, Rotary Hill and Frontier Park hosted the Naperville Salute event and fireworks, as well as we hosted a baseball tournament at Frontier Park that same weekend. Frontier Park will be the home to the upcoming Irish Fest the same weekend as India Day at Rotary Hill. That's that first full weekend in August. During this time of the year, our maintenance crews turn to project work such as invasive plant removal, ball field renovations, mulching, and hardscape improvements. With the constantly changing precipitation patterns, our mowing crew has had to return back to normal mowing rotations, and our pond maintenance crews turn to battling the aquatic weeds that frequently occur during the warm season. Now that we're about a month out from the June 21st tornado, we're starting to see the financial impacts of the disaster. Our first invoice for contracted services for slightly over $17,000 was received, and we've authorized another $11,000 of cleanup to commence. Though unexpected, we should be able to absorb these costs in our parks capital allowance accounts. And after updating the totals that I was able to provide at the Parks and Rec Committee last Friday, we've determined that we've worked over 900 labor hours on the project, which equates to over $18,600 in staff wages. While the majority of the time working on the cleanup came during normal work hours, I do feel the need to point out that comes at the cost of delaying other tasks that we'd normally be performing during this time of the year. And finally, wanted to give a couple of quick updates on hiring to build off of Katie. Early in the week, we were able to promote Clint Burnell to our new Central Parks and Fleet Operations Manager. He will start on Monday. With Clint's promotion, we've got 4 full-time positions to fill, 2 park specialist 2s and 2 park specialist 1s. With summer seasonal staff set to leave in the coming weeks, we still have over a dozen part-time positions to fill this year. Thank you.
Hey, Tim, quick question, if I may. You were talking about the disaster and everything. How does insurance come into play there? I mean, is that all out of the district's pocket, or we can make certain claims, or?
There's very little that's covered by insurance. Becky Cooper had been working with Paderma to determine what we could recuperate. We had a set of bleachers damaged, a ball field storage box, and a park sign. Those specifically look like we could be reimbursed, and the time spent cleaning up the material in that general vicinity, we might be able to be reimbursed for. Most of the tree damage that we experienced in the 4 parks were in non-landscaped beds, and we were told that those would not be covered. I do know that I had been working with Sue, and we're going to look at some options and see if there were some more avenues to explore with that.
Gotta love insurance. You pay your premium religiously, month after month, year after year, then when you need it, they find some way. Okay.
Any other comments? All right, planning.
So as relayed at the July 16th Parks and Recreation Committee meeting, thank you, Brad. And as Sam just mentioned, the capital projects open house this year will be conducted virtually with an online format featuring 2022 project information and project maps. This is slated to go out next week and extend into early August. Residents are encouraged to view the projects and submit comments and questions via email to the project manager associated with each project. It is important to mention that detailed designs for 2022 projects have not yet been fully developed. This is an opportunity for the community to provide input prior to the design phase. Moreover, the input received from residents will assist Park District project managers in formulating plans and cost estimates for inclusion in the 2022 capital budget. Also, I wanted to present tonight, as we know, there was at the Parks and Rec Committee meeting last Friday, there was a tour of the central maintenance facility. As a planning department staff, we would like to extend the invitation of a tour of possibly a pond dredging project, shoreline restoration, park meadow project. If the committee members are interested in such a tour, we are targeting either Friday, July 30th, like late morning, or even in the morning of Friday, August 13th. So we just want to extend that invitation. If you have an interest, we think it would be a great opportunity to just kind of walk through a couple of our project sites and relay the progress that we're making, and again, the focus on natural resource management.
Is there interest in the second tour?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
We'll just figure out the day.
Yeah, please work with Bridget from the date and she'll look at our schedules.
Great. And then recreation.
Yeah, I just want to expand on a couple of updates that I provided to the Parks and Recreation Committee. Overall participation right now, as we look at winter, spring, and summer, we are within about 20% or down about 20% of what we were compared to 2019. So overall, that's about 8,000 registrations below where we were at in this time frame in 2019. It seems like so long ago, but back this past winter, we were still operating under some pretty strict restrictions with indoor programming. So that's a great place to be at right now. Our summer camps, we are actually up 11% over 2019, which is about 500 participants more than we saw the entire summer during that summer. And our aquatics programs with our swim lessons at Centennial Beach, we're up 450 kids over 2019, which is an increase of 69% of what we saw there. So we have our last session of swim lessons starting up next week, and then we will be done for the summer with swimming. Beach passes, Sam mentioned earlier that we have our 50% off sale right now. Overall with our beach passes, we are over 1,000 passes more than what were sold in 2019. So a great weather start to the summer certainly helped with that, but we also know that a lot of people are out and looking for those outdoor activities. And we're also up about 260 passes as compared to what was sold in 2018 for the same time frame. Our volunteer celebration is scheduled for this coming Thursday, July 29th from 5 to 8 o'clock. At this point, we have close to 900 people who have registered to attend that volunteer celebration. So it is slated to be one of our larger celebrations that we've had at Centennial Beach. We're pleased to welcome Ashley Roden as our new customer service manager with the Park District. Ashley takes over for Debbie Kretzman, who retired from the district this past June, and will oversee the overall customer service functions, the registration desks at all of our facilities. So Ashley comes to us from the Woodridge Park District, where she served as the customer service supervisor, has a wealth of knowledge with the registration software we use, so we're pleased to have her. And then similar to what Tim mentioned, come August, we begin to lose quite a few staff as they return to college. So you may begin to see some of our facilities, such as Centennial Beach, with some of the areas being closed in the water. That's strictly due to staffing and some of the lifeguards needing to return. And then we also have a lot of our day camp counselors and other positions that will start returning. So we will begin to adjust some of our operating hours for that.
Great. All right, our next regular meeting for the Board of Commissioners will be August 12th, 7 p.m. here at Fort Hill Activity Center. And we do have executive session.
Move to adjourn to executive session to discuss land acquisition under Section 2C5 of the Open Meetings Act.
Need a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Vice President Gibson? Yes. Commissioner Ruffing?
Yes.
Commissioner Ansier?
Yes.
Commissioner Janner?
Yes.
Commissioner McBroom?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
President Todd?
Yes.